Hello and welcome to Stretch Yourself, the Empowerment Podcast. This is the show for entrepreneurs and people that are all about staying focused and engaging on improving their relationships in life and in business. And on this episode, are you tired of struggling with your weight, battling those I hate my body thoughts, and feeling like you just can't get a handle on your food and eating? And I know that's one thing that I do. Do you want to eat normally and feel at ease in your body? Well, that's exactly what we're going to learn and help you with on this show, where you're going to learn how to stop struggling and find freedom around food, feel comfortable in your skin, and find a solution to free yourself from that self-critic in your head and become normal around food. My guest today is able to help you get there. Today's guest on the Empowerment Podcast is Jenn Hand. Now, let me just give you a quick bio about her. She is totally awesome, and I cannot wait to speak with her. Jenn Hand is a speaker. She's a writer, author, a world traveler, an adventure connoisseur, which I like, a holistic health advocate, creator of the Normal Eaters Club, and founder of JennHand.com. And this is a full-service boutique that offers coaching and online programs that enable women to transform their relationship with food, fall in love with their body, and, well, become those normal eaters. She's a contributing writer and has been seen on Mind Body Green, the Body Department with Sean Johnson, Elite Daily, Healthy Moms Magazine, and the Huffington Post, to name a few. Jenn Hand, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ron. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to dive into this important topic that us entrepreneurs sometimes just put on the back burner.
Yes, definitely, Jen. And this is one of the things that I definitely wanted to touch bases on because, like we were just discussing before, we go through a lot of different things trying to achieve things in our careers, in our business, and in our life. And we forget that self-care that we need to do to take care of our body, to make sure that we are keeping those weights down and making sure that we're being active and being healthy. That self-care is one of the most important things. So, let's do this. I love to get started. And, everybody knows the Stretch Yourself community and the family that's out there that's listening, that we'll be downloading this later, will love to know the backstory. So, as we always talk about, the juicy juice. Give me the juicy juice on your backstory. What made you come about your passion and your enjoyment on helping people find their freedom around food?
Yeah, so I really desperately struggled when I was younger with my food and my body, and sort of swinging between the two extremes of being really rigid with my diet and clean eating and restriction and being super healthy and spending hours at the gym, and then going into the other extreme of saying, oh, screw it, it's too hard, too much work, I'm going to just eat whatever I want. And that would lead into overeating, a lot of binging, and a lot of shame around my body for losing and gaining weight over and over and over. And I desperately battled just hating my body and not liking what I saw in the mirror, and thought that just by losing weight or being smaller, being thinner is what would fix that issue. Yeah. And so I sort of began this journey of wanting to find happiness, actually, because I remember being at the smallest size that I was and being so deeply miserable. Wow. Still, I was like, I've reached my goal. This is it. This is what I've wanted. And I looked in the mirror and still hated what I saw. And it was sort of my wake-up call to say, wow, there has to be something else besides losing weight, being smaller, being thinner, being fitter, that would make me happy. And I didn't know what that was. Okay. So it sort of began my own journey of inner work, of looking at emotions and finding what made me happy, and really digging deeper into the stuff other than the food, and sort of starting to let go of dieting and starting to see, okay, well, what did my body want, listening to my body, and diving into that whole world. And so what's funny was my decision was I would get my master's in nutrition and then become a nutritionist to help women who struggle with food and talk with them about food. And it completely changed the course of my life, because when I was getting my master's, I became extra crazy around food because I had so much knowledge about this is good, this is bad, here's what you're supposed to eat, here's what you should be doing. It made me crazy. And I realized then that it wasn't knowledge that we all needed. It wasn't more intellectual reading messages, blogs, learning in a book. It was more of letting go of the mind and tuning into our bodies. And so it kind of shifted my path from being a little bit more holistic around how I approached my own career. And it's really my passion because I think there's so many people out there that think it's so easy. Like, it's just food, it's just weight. I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it goes so much deeper that we have to look at some of the other stuff, that self-care, the emotional piece, the doing what we love, finding fulfillment in our lives that tie into that journey as well.
Okay, great. So I've been taking notes here, and you was talking about the inner thought. So what typically goes on with the mind play as far as you talking to yourself? I know for me, and I'm just going to throw it out there, I look at myself in the mirror, and usually I look at myself naked. So guys, do not get no mental image of this. And I say, oh my God, there's some stuff that I got to get rid of over here in this corner. There's some pockets I have over here. Okay, I got to go to the gym. And then I go extreme sometimes, like you were saying. Okay, I'm not going to eat this, or I'm going to do this. And I be very, very strict. How can we get away from that mind play, which means, the critic that's in between our ears that always is talking to us?
Yeah, I love labeling that voice. I call it our gremlin, and whatever word you want to use, like our inner critic, the gremlin, and labeling it so we know it's not the truth.
Okay.
And that was the first step that I took that was so helpful. When that voice, that chatterbox in my head, you're disgusting, look how big you are, you need to lose weight, get rid of this, get rid of that. It was labeling it to say, okay, there is that voice. There is that mean girl gremlin in my head that is there. And so what really helped me at first, instead of trying to change how I saw myself in the mirror, it was closing my eyes and finding a connection, finding wholeness, finding enoughness, finding some sort of feeling of being good enough coming from inside. Because what I found is that we never get to the place externally where we look in the mirror and say, yep, check the box, I'm enough. It comes from the inside.
Yeah.
And so it's working backwards because we're told, no, if you look this way, then you'll find that internal acceptance. And really, we all have it backwards. It's like, let's find the internal acceptance, and then the outer will begin to reflect that.
Wow. Yes, because no matter what I've done, I mean, I've done, and I use myself as an example, as everybody knows in the Stretch Yourself community. I went to the extreme where I've done nothing but eat nothing but tuna, and I lost incredible weight, but I was miserable, and I looked good, but I was unhealthy. And then, then you fall off and then you binge. So, and what I've learned is that I just want to be comfortable. So I did start, doing some meditation and then just enjoying my body and loving my body for where it is. Which goes into my second question is, how do you listen to your body? Because I know you said that, and I don't know how I did it. I just said, okay, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm enough, and I don't know if that was something that was good for me to do. So what are some active steps that you can do to listen to your body?
That's such a good question, because it's something so seemingly ambiguous, right? It's like, yeah, just listen to your body, and your body knows. And it's like, but how do we do that? What's it saying? I can't hear it.
Yeah.
So for me, the first step would be really strengthening the belief that our bodies are talking with us, because a lot of people that email me or ask me questions are like, my body's just not saying anything. I can't hear it. And a lot of times that's because we're so far on the other side of listening. Like we've just ignored our bodies for so long that when we start to open that conversation, it's like, it's really quiet. So we have to be really open and believe that we have that inner voice, that wisdom inside of us. And I love using kids as an example, because any child, little kid knows exactly what they want, how much food to eat, what they want to play next. I mean, they're so good at tuning into that part of themselves because they haven't lost that connection yet. So remembering that. And the second step would be experimentation, because you might say, okay, what does my body want for breakfast? Or what is my body telling me I need today? And you're trying to figure out, and you're trying to hear, and you might say, oh, my body needs a nap. Or you might say, my body needs eggs and toast for breakfast. And then you do that, or you take the nap, you eat the meal, and then you realize it was what you were needing or wasn't what you were needing. So it's sort of that process of starting anywhere and getting that feedback of, oh, that's what my body was saying, or maybe I didn't really hear that correctly, or maybe that was my mind really overpowering my body. And as you start to experiment and hear the feedback from, yes, that was it, maybe it was it a little bit, but I needed to shift more, or no, that wasn't it at all. And taking that feedback for the next time. So it's like you get a little bit better each time at listening to what your body's saying. And I think when we're hot, our bodies tell us. When we're cold, our bodies tell us. It's not something that we analyze. It's not something that we overthink.
It just happens.
And so it's like remembering that our bodies are talking to us, but with the food, or maybe with what we want to explore as a career, or what inspires us, it might take a little bit more listening and experimenting to really connect with it and hear it, because it's been absent for so long, or we've been ignoring it for so long.
Okay, man. So I'm getting some insight, because, man, my body talks to me sometimes, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like, it'll see my favorite type of snack that I like to over binge in, and I'm like, no, you can't have that, or it'll be, I'll just want something. So I've learned in about sort of a way that, man, I have the taste for. Is that what we do when we say I have the taste for this, or I have the taste for that? Or if I'm going to binge like my favorite almond cream butter or whatever, it's a topping that I put on some crackers and stuff. I just love to snack on those. So sometimes I'm like, okay, you're doing too much, body. You can't have that. Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah, there is that balance. It's and I like to call it mental and physical hunger. So if you're not physically hungry, but mentally you're like, oh man, I want my favorite snack, and that taste, you're craving that taste. Uh-huh. There's nothing wrong with occasionally, consciously, mindfully indulging, because absolutely, I mean, we're only human. We love our favorite snacks, or the chocolate bar, or the bowl of ice cream, on a hot summer day. I think it's more the consciousness and awareness behind it, instead of blindly just being like, oh no, I'm having a snack, and just, blowing through 27 crackers, because we're not consciously doing it. So it's like that balance in tandem with the awareness, because it's like, you don't have to feel guilty. You can sit down and make yourself a few crackers, a few cookies, a few whatevers, and have it out, and consciously eat it, be okay, let go of the guilt, and move on, kind of thing.
Okay. Because I've done that, and I felt bad about it, after I consumed a whole jar of it. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. But then I'm like,
would be where it's sort of tied into our emotions. Is it every day at 3:00 we crave chips or ice cream or Doritos because we're feeling our energy is really low and we actually need a meal? Or is it related to stress? Is it related to overwhelm? So paying attention to sort of where those cravings are a sign that something else is going on.
Okay, so pay attention to your cravings, because I know if I'm on a project and I'm really doing some critical thinking or some strategy thinking, I need chocolate. I already know that's a given. I mean, I know, and it's not where I'm, I'll be honest with you, it's not where I'm sitting there binging on it. It's just that I'll have some M&Ms and then I'll just snack on them. Just a little bit, not that much. Does that make sense? So my body is just sated at that time. And then I'm being incredibly active, and I'm using that energy towards that. So, another question. I got another question. I'm so excited. Dieting. This is probably a big thing that everybody goes through. Now, I'll have to tell you, I've done a lot of diets. I mean, I've done the caveman diet. I've done the, only eat meat diet. I've done the no carb diet. I've done. Now, currently, I'll be honest with you, I'm in the ketogenic diet. I'm only eating one meal a day, and, and kind of modified it to make it satisfying for me. It's probably like a hybrid type of dieting, because I still eat everything. So, what kind of tips can you give to somebody if they're eating or just trying to diet, or if they don't want to diet and they just want to become a healthy eater? That's probably the question that I have for you. What type of advice would you give to them?
I would say the biggest piece for me would be twofold. And the first is, so when you make something forbidden, like when you have a good and a bad, a should and a shouldn't, it makes, and this is what I was talking about with getting my master's. I was like, I knew so much about what was good, what was bad, and labeling everything, judging myself all the time. It made me think about food so much that it became so consuming instead of having food just be I'd play a normal role in my life. And so examining the sort of rules and forbiddenness and good and bad that we place on our food and labels, because it can be, ideally we get to the place where there is no, you eat this and you're amazing, or you eat that and you're a horrible person. You feel guilty and you shame yourself. It's like, each and everything has a role and it's a balanced role. And it's not to say let's eat ice cream every day for the rest of our lives. Yeah. But it's finding and that's kind of the second piece, is that balance of healthy eating doesn't just mean physical health. And I think that's where the diet and weight loss industry have sort of given us that message, is that like, we're not just machines. It's not just kale smoothies in, salads in, grilled chicken in, we're done. We're physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual beings. And so we've forgotten the other parts of us and try to just look at the physical, whereas emotions play into food, our mental habits play into food, the spiritual piece of us. If we're not fulfilled, we look for fulfillment in food or in some other substance. So it's like finding that balance of how is food fulfilling us on not just the physical realm, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually as well.
Wow, man, that's a great aspect. I mean, I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at it from that standpoint of, on those levels, because, we do eat on certain levels. I mean, I know for a fact when I leave the gym, I know I'm going to replenish something so I can eat whatever I want to eat. And then I listen to my body and see what my body really wants to eat after it's satisfied that craving for, working out or doing whatever I was doing. Afterward, there's from what you're saying, there's other modes of reasons of why we eat and why we need to make sure that we have that healthy balance. So there's nothing wrong with us eating. Is probably more of us getting into that mental state of saying, okay, I have to diet or I have to do this, and just not being comfortable with our bodies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And to give a good example, when I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and every time I go home, my mom makes her famous mac and cheese, garlic bread. It's like a carb heavy meal. It's just like a pile of carbs on a plate. Oh, but man, growing up, we had that so often that to me, it reminds me of comfort and love and family and connection. Okay. And so it's like, there's that emotional piece of, it might not be physically the healthiest meal, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it's so satisfying. It's satisfying.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's like that satisfaction of, wow, it means so much to me. It signifies so much to me that I eat it and enjoy it and take that fulfillment, because it's like, yeah, it's not just physical in that moment. Of course, it's food, energy, all that stuff, fuel, but it sort of has another meaning. And that's not to say every single meal we eat has to have the best, most fulfilling, most satisfying meaning ever. But to have that example of how, we have comfort foods, we have things that remind us of our parents or of our kids or growing up or something that is that sort of emotional piece or mental piece. And to not berate ourselves if Friday night you get home from a long week and your personal fulfillment right then and your personal satisfaction is like a glass of wine, some cheese and crackers, and plopping yourself down on the couch, and you're calling it an appetizer, and that's dinner. It's like, that's okay. It's less about kind of what you're saying, the mental piece. If we eat that and then judge ourselves and then get mad at ourselves and then criticize ourselves, we carry that on and on and on, instead of just eating, letting it go, and moving on.
Wow. So let's do this. Let's give them 3 points, which I will say 3 things that women can take away from here now that they can apply yesterday to help them gain control of their eating? I know one, you just said to listen to their body, correct? To make sure that they are just and understanding where their eating habits are coming from. Am I making sense? I'm just throwing things out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I would say opening that conversation to begin to listen to your body. And if you already know how to listen to your body, that's amazing. That's, you're a step ahead. But for people who are like, what does that mean? I don't know. It's opening that conversation and asking. And it's like, we ask a question sometimes and we don't know the answers, but we're open, we're curious, we're trying to find out, what is that? Does that feel right? Does that feel wrong? So yes, opening that conversation to listen to your body. The second one I would say is examining the emotional tie between when you're eating and food and your emotions. So this can be, maybe a little bit more complicated because if we're going so fast, if we're just focusing on our to-do lists, on achieving, on, getting more done, it's like we don't have that sort of reflective awareness, mindfulness around what we're doing with food. So looking at where your emotions, stress, overwhelm, boredom, unhappiness, loneliness, where that's tying into what you're eating. And stress and overwhelm, I would say that the biggest two. People are so overwhelmed that they're like, they don't even want to deal with anything. And so they just sit down on the couch after work or sit down on the couch after a long day. And they're like, oh, this is my reward for myself. So exploring that relationship. The third thing I would say, and it's a really simple tip that can really help balance you physically. And I'm talking about just physical health, is adding protein every time you eat. Have protein with that meal or snack. So just from a sort of like, nutrition junkie basis, it keeps your blood sugar balanced and cravings diminish because you're eating a lot of that protein, stabilizing your blood sugar. So that's sort of a more physical tip, adding the protein every time you eat, just helping your energy even out, your cravings diminish, and it can be a really big push towards, just feeling more balanced in general.
Okay, great. So one more question, and then we'll go ahead and close out. I mean, hey, listen, Stretch Yourself family, I can go on for days talking about health because I am a buff, as everybody knows. I love working out, and I'll tell you on the opposite side, I love to eat. I'm just going to let you know. There's no in-betweens. I'm going to eat. There's nothing that I'm saying, no, I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to try anything. So water consumption, because I've heard a lot of different things from people saying you got to have at least a jug of water, or some people said, no, you got to have 2 gallons of water before you'll start losing weight. Is there such thing as drinking too much water? And what is the balance that you would have for your water consumption?
So there is we could drink too much water, but like that is, the extreme. So I wouldn't even worry about that because most of us are so far from that point that it's not even in our realm. So the recommended that I've always heard and followed was drinking half your body weight in ounces.
Okay.
But my biggest tip I always have a water with me, a water bottle, and refill it all the time. I try and drink some tea or some lemon water in the morning, and drinking as much as you can. I would say there's no like, you have to do 60 ounces. If you need a benchmark, divide your weight in 2 and aim for that. Okay. But if you don't, it's not like, all or nothing. If you don't hit that 70 ounces, then you're the worst person ever. It's like, okay, if you get 55, aim for a little bit more tomorrow. That's something that I do struggle with. I am always like, I got to drink more water. Because I forget I'm busy. I'm like in the zone. And I had water in an hour.
Right? We usually do that. So I usually, I try to stay around, I say a gallon, but I never do a gallon. I probably do a half. But that's just me. I always set something so I have something to strive for. But then if I'm not active, if I'm not doing anything, I won't drink nothing for the day. And then I'll remind myself, oh man, I forgot to drink something. Let me just get my 8 glasses, my 8 cups, and I'm good for the day. So I really don't, I don't really set a course for that. So, just to recap, so you said, listen to your body. That was the first one. Be mindful of the emotions behind the food. And that's probably one of the best things that I definitely got from here to gain, to make sure that I'm mindful of what I'm eating, but then more importantly, the emotion that's behind it. And then, man, great tip is to add protein, because there's some times when I'll eat and it's just carb heavy, my crackers in that spread is, oh my God, so good. And then I find out I'll wolf the whole thing down. So, Jenn, I want to say thank you. And, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. So, guys, you have to go out there. It's jennhand.com. She has a lot of different wonderful products out there. And also they can, sign up for a consultation. Am I correct, Jenn?
Yeah, and all my information's on the website, and I have tons of great blog posts and video trainings and things you can look at to help you find your own way of eating it. And really, above all else, my biggest aim is to find balance in terms of listening to your own self, because there's something that works. You're doing the ketogenic thing. I mean, there's something different that works for everyone. And there's no judgment. There's no one right way. It's like finding our own path. So there's tons of resources to help you find that, really. Definitely.
And that is correct, Jenn. I mean, I went through a lot of different things, and this is probably the one thing that my body is very comfortable with. And you're correct. You got to find out what's comfortable for you. Just don't fall into what everybody else is doing. And there's a lot of different things that I've tried and definitely didn't work for me. So Jenn has a lot of products out there. She has the After Binge Toolkit, which I seen it. I probably needed to grab that many times after I was feeling bad after I ate a lot of different things. And then she has, which I find that I'm going to actually download and get, is Fall in Love with Your Body Meditation. I think that is probably one of the most things that will be very helpful for you to get mindful and listening to the way your body speaks to you. The last thing that she has is Let Go of the Scale Challenge, which I love because I used to be a stickler about weighing myself, constantly on that scale, morning, evening, afternoon, and I had to tear myself away from the scale. So I think, Jenn, if I'm asking, if I'm being wrong, just let me know. You do have a guide out there for them to download. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's how to let go of the diet cycle. So if you're that type of person who is always swearing to start over tomorrow and you overeat, and then you're like, oh, today's the day, I'm really going to do it. And then by tomorrow you're like, oh crap, I've overeaten again. It's a guide to help you, give you those first couple steps of, okay, how do you find some balance here? How do you get out of that cycle?
Okay, great. Now you can follow Jenn everywhere. Tell them where you are, Jenn, if you don't mind, socially wise, and then we'll just go ahead and close out.
So mostly I hang out on Facebook. So if you want to get in touch with me, so it's facebook.com/Jenn Hand Consulting. And message me, follow my page. I always post stuff. I do a lot of live videos. So I like to hang out in there because it's so fun. And I love doing live videos. So, and I'm always open for topic suggestions. I love hearing things that people struggle with so I can dive deeper into them and help people find some clarity.
Okay, great. So everybody, you've heard that, Jenn Hand. If you go out there on Facebook, connect with her. She goes live. She's probably like me. I go live daily. I'm probably gambling. If I was a gambling man, I would lose money that she would see her on there live, and she loves different topics that she has. And then more importantly, she says suggest some topics. Ask her some questions. Go live and ask her some questions. She'll fill questions out there for you, right, Jenn?
That's right.
Okay, great. Is there anything else? Now, I'm probing and I'm just digging for stuff now. You have a book that you're currently writing, correct?
I do, and it is the longest labor of love I've ever worked on. So I am like you. I am a doer. I go after things and I dive in, and this book has been this is like coming onto the third year of the process of writing a book. So it's taught me a lot of patience, a lot of, enjoy the process. But yes, I am working on a book, and title to be determined, but it is about letting go of dieting, finding your freedom, and falling in love with your body again.
Great. So everybody, you hear that? She is writing a book. And Jenn, I'll definitely tell you, listen, when I started with Stretch Yourself, that was a 5-year project. Yes, those are brainchilds that we have. So I definitely understand what you go through. It is a labor of love, and you do have to practice patience. And man, I wish you all the best of luck and success in your book writing. And guys, again, if you want to engage with her, let's just go back over some things. JennHand.com. You can download the free guide. It's a must-have guide to end diet cycle today. That is free. Input your information. Get it like yesterday. I'm going to download a copy, and you can connect with her socially on Facebook. She is live out there, guys. So Jenn Hand, if you plug that in, you're going to find her group page. Link up with her. Ask her some questions. There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions. I know I have questions. I'm going to be going out there live when she's out there and just plug in questions for her to see what she can answer for me, because I have a litany of questions to ask her.
And I'll be happy to answer.
And she definitely will be out there to answer it. And then if anything that you have out there, definitely her consultation is invaluable. So I highly recommend you to get in a consultation with her and see how you can change and improve your body. So Jenn, hey, thank you. It has been a pleasure having you on the show. We truly appreciate you in the Stretch Yourself community, and we look forward to your newest endeavor and your book.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks for listening to Stretch Yourself, the Empowerment Podcast. There are hundreds and thousands of podcasts out there, and I want to personally thank you for choosing my podcast to help you build a better relationship in business and in life. To listen and download more interviews like this one, connect and subscribe to the channel. It is available on iTunes and on Google Play for download. Connect with me socially, keyword Stretch Yourself. Thanks again for listening.